So here we are, video one of All American Boys. I hope you guys liked chapter one as much as you thought you would. It is, I think, a really good book, and I think that it does deal a lot with current events or things that have been on our mind throughout the last couple years, and a lot of current issues, especially dealing with the media and the way that things can get kind of twisted around, and the way that stories can get passed from person to person and can change along the way. So, as I said before, I am not going to read all of this book on video. It is just not possible. So, hopefully, you are getting into your Learning Ally account. If you are not getting into your Learning Ally account, please send me a message so that I can figure out how to get you in. Also, I can stalk you on Learning Ally. So, on Learning Ally, I can see how many pages you've read, just so you know. So none of this, oh yeah, I read it, and then I open your account and you're on 0 pages read. So just remember that. Not that I'm going to stalk you unless I start seeing that things are being answered incorrectly. And then I might be like, oh, did he actually read? So try not to make me do that. I really hate being the police. So in chapter one, we met Rashid, and there is a lot kind of to go through there. It is our first introduction to these characters, and we're going to discuss it in our Zoom meeting. So I'm not going to go into everything here. I just wanted to make sure that I hit enough in case somebody's having some trouble or wants to organize their thoughts before. So I got to fit my book on the table in front of me. Because like I said, I am reading out of my actual book and not on Learning Ally. So I have some notes in it, and I just want to start with just this character of Rashid, right? So he is high school kid. He's in ROTC, which is like your junior army training program, if anyone doesn't know what that is. His father is very insistent that he do ROTC and that he join the military. He has an older brother who did not, and he makes a comment that his father kind of looks down on his brother as if only green and blue uniforms were okay, but brown ones meant failure. So his brother works for UPS and wears, a brown UPS uniform. And he makes this comment about uniforms, and he's kind of comparing all uniforms to each other, right? So he's saying, my father's okay with green uniforms and blue uniforms, meaning the Army and the Navy, but he's not okay with brown uniforms, meaning kind of your everyday job. And Rashid's point seems to be that his brother has a job. He goes to work, he supports himself, he does what he needs to do, but that he doesn't get any of that respect back from his father. And we're going to see their father kind of coming in and out of the story a couple times, his opinions on things. So he kind of talks about his, like, back to his father's relationship. His father seems to be kind of like that tough love person. He kind of comes in the room and immediately is asking questions about if you're doing the right thing. But you kind of get the feeling that his father does care, that kind of tough, overbearing persona is some level of caring. At least that's the opinion I get. You are more than welcome to argue with me. Remember that. So you're more than welcome to disagree with me. Then they get into school, and in school, he's wearing his uniform on Friday because they have to. He hates it. He jumps into the bathroom to change out of it. And everybody is kind of going in and out of this bathroom, talking to each other to kind of find their weekend plans. So we have just all of these in and outs. And then he starts describing the relationships between everyone. So he has his little group, which is English, Shannon, Carlos, and I know I'm forgetting somebody. I'm sure no, I think maybe I'm not. Okay, so we've got Rashid's little group, and they're all getting ready to go to this party. And they're talking about, like, who's going to go at what time, who's going to get what for each other. And we kind of just have this moment of him changing out of his ROTC uniform. So he's changing out of his Army uniform and into kind of like his regular kid clothes. So we have that Army uniform, which the father already said gets respect, right? Green and blue uniforms, Army, Navy, and hey, look, what else is a blue uniform? Police, right? So he's talking about all of those branches as being the respect portion. And before he leaves school, he kind of sheds that respectful outfit and puts on his regular kid outfit, which is not to say that's something that should be disrespected, but we kind of immediately have him shedding one skin to put on another, and kind of maybe how he gets treated maybe wouldn't have happened if he had been in his ROTC uniform, right? Versus if he's dressed otherwise. Again, not saying that's the correct behavior, but we start to wonder if that is part of what's going on. So he talks about his friends. He then talks about how he really likes to draw, which kind of adds another layer to this kid who just talks a lot about partying and girls and basketball. And he's like, no, I really like to draw. And then they end before the paragraph break, or the first, not chapter break, but like the long section breaks, which is kind of also supposed to be a pause point, where he says, I never really told him just because that wasn't something we did, but I loved them, all of them. So he talks about how this idea of, I have it marked in my book as manliness ? So he says, that's not what you did. You didn't tell people that you loved them. It's just not what we did. And you wonder, is that we high schoolers? Is that we men? Is that we, the men in his community? Because he is kind of building up what his community is like, that they don't use words like I love you. So he comes out in his ROTC uniform, and then he starts talking about his next kind of path that he's going to go and get, chips. He's going on and on about what kind of chips he's going to get. And, am I going to kiss a girl with whatever kind of chips on my breath, whatever. So just kind of normal kid stuff. And he says, I never stole anything from anywhere. Again, too scared of what my pops would do to me. So it's not that he's scared of kind of the police or the repercussions. He's simply scared of what his father would do. Knowing him, he'd probably send me to military school or some kind of boot camp, like scared straight. He'd probably say something to my mother about how my problem was I needed more push-ups in my life. So he's saying that he has never stolen anything. But again, he brings it kind of back on his dad in like a negative. And yet I kind of see that as a positive, that his dad is the kind of person that wouldn't take any of that. So I just want to point that out, that he kind of puts a lot of judgment on his dad, when I think his dad is kind of a pretty good guy. Then on my page 19, there's kind of this double paragraph break with just one line. And the one line in the middle is, now here's what happened, period, pay attention, period. So he's saying, here's what happened, here's what I say happened. Now, in reality, he is probably our most reliable source for what happened inside that drugstore. Now, does that mean that he's 100% reliable? Maybe not. And that's a conversation that we can have in our Zoom meeting. Do we really believe everything he says to be 100% true and for like in his intentions, right? Versus kind of what I would say at any given point after something happened. So he kind of trips. The lady makes the noise, hey, what are you doing? Me, I put my finger to my chest confused. So the cop comes over, hey, what are you doing? He's like, me? What am I doing? The cop perked up, slipping between me and the clerk to get a better look. But he wasn't looking at me at all, not at first. He was looking at the lady, who was now on one knee, dusting off her hands. Ma'am, are you okay? The officer asked, concerned. So we've got kind of these two different ways that the cop talks. At first, hey, what are you doing? And then this, ma'am, are you okay? So we kind of have that back and forth. And the woman starts to stammer. And the cop asks, did he do something to you? And now that's an interesting question. The first thing that the cop asks is not, hey, what was going on? It's, did he do something to you? Directly looking over at Rashid, who's kind of sitting there. He didn't do anything. In fact, the woman, did something to him. It was on accident, but that's who was the person who acted. And before she can say anything, she says, no, I. And before she can finish, the clerk interrupts with, he was trying to steal those chips. Okay? So it's not the cop who assumes he's trying to steal the chips. The clerk jumps in, he's trying to steal the chips, right? And he says, in my bag, man, ain't nobody stealing nothing. Now, I do want to point out the English in that sentence, as much as I hate to do this, but we've talked about how people talk kind of defines the way that we think of them in some way, even if we don't want to. So, man, ain't nobody stealing nothing. And immediately you can kind of see that everybody is going on guard. My hands were already up in reflex, so he kind of holds up his hands just reflexively. I was just trying to get my phone. Shut up. Wait, I said, shut up. Are you deaf or something? No, you don't understand. Now, then he reaches into his pocket, right? And I think that's where we kind of have this big turning of events, right? He reaches into his pocket. Now, when he reaches into his pocket, he says, I reached into my pocket to grab the dollar I had designated, but before I could get my finger on the money, the cop had me knotted up, right? So he puts his hand in his pocket, and this cop jumps on him, right? And at this point, he starts kind of reflexively fighting, right? Because I feel like I'm in danger. I'm going to twist. I'm going to kind of try to pull away. And he says, my initial reaction to the terrible pain was to move, not to try to escape or resist, just move. Like when you stub your toe, the first thing you do is throw yourself on the bed or jump around. It was the same reflex. I just needed to move to calm the pain. So theoretically, let's just go over what this cop saw. This cop saw him reach into his pocket, then he grabs him, and then the kid kind of starts twisting around. Again, not saying that anyone is in the right for grabbing somebody. We're just kind of laying out the situation. Now, they kind of get out into the street and they hear people leave him alone. And then need to learn how to respect authority, and I'm going to teach you. Now, this is the kind of first moment that we see this cop actually, well, I guess you have the you want to resist before that, but we kind of see him going overboard and kind of knowing he's going overboard. That statement lets me know that he knows he's doing the wrong thing, right? He's saying, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you a lesson. That's not the cop's job, right? There's tears pulling my brain, explode into a million thoughts, and only one thought, please don't kill me. And that is the ending of that section, right? Is please don't kill me. And that's the moment that we're left with him. So those were kind of my little notes along the way. Of course, I've got some more that we can talk about in discussion. I want to hear your reaction. I want to kind of go back and forth with you guys. But I did just want to give some of my thoughts that I would have given if we were reading kind of aloud in class. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you.